Stop. Before you eat another meal today, there is something happening inside your arteries right now that most people in their 50s and 60s have no idea about. Not because the science doesn't exist, it does. The problem is, nobody ever sat down and explained it to you properly. Until today, in the last video, we covered the first artery-clearing meal. A lot of you came back asking for more, so today we go further. The second meal, 6 different ingredients, each one hitting a completely different mechanism than what we covered last time, and one of them is so counterintuitive that most people in their 50s have been actively avoiding it for years, thinking it was bad for their heart. When the research shows the exact opposite. If you are over 50 and believe you're already eating heart healthy, pay close attention, because there are things very likely on your plate right now that are working directly against your arteries, and you have probably been told they are fine. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what the second artery clearing meal looks like, why each ingredient earns its place at the artery wall level, and the 3 foods most people in their 50s and 60s eat every week that are feeding the very problem they are trying to fix. Here is what is actually happening inside your body after 50. Your arteries are not passive pipes. They have a living inner lining called the endothelium. When healthy, this lining is smooth and constantly releases a chemical called nitric oxide that keeps your artery walls relaxed and open. After 52 things happen simultaneously. First, nitric oxide production can drop by 30 to 50% compared to your 30s. That is a massive decline in one of your cardiovascular system's main protective chemicals. Second, chronic low-grade inflammation, which increases naturally with age, starts damaging that lining. The surface that was smooth becomes rough and sticky. LDL cholesterol that has been chemically damaged by oxidative stress, what is called oxidized LDL, starts clinging to those rough patches the way tape catches on a textured wall. That buildup is plaque. Soft, unstable plaque is the dangerous kind, not because it sits there, but because it can rupture without warning and throw a clot. That clot is what causes a heart attack or a stroke. So the game is 2 jobs. Stop new plaque from forming, and stabilize what is already there so it does not blow. After 50, the margin for error on both is smaller than it was at 35, which means every meal is either pushing things further in the wrong direction or pulling them back. This meal pulls them back. Ingredient 1, walnuts. Most people in their 50s have been told to avoid nuts because of fat. This is one of the most damaging pieces of diet advice for your arteries, and it is completely backwards. Walnuts are the only commonly eaten nut with meaningful amounts of alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that partially converts into EPA, the same compound found in fish that directly stabilizes soft plaque inside artery walls. But walnuts also contain polyphenols called L-tannins. Your gut bacteria convert those into a compound called urolithin A, which directly reduces the oxidative stress damaging your endothelial lining. So walnuts are doing 2 jobs, stabilizing existing soft plaque and reducing the oxidative environment that creates new plaque. A 2020 study in the journal Circulation tracked adults with elevated LDL for 2 years. The walnut group saw oxidized LDL drop by around 12%. Not total LDL, oxidized LDL, the chemically damaged version that actually sticks to artery walls. That is the number that matters most in the plaque conversation. After 50, your internal antioxidant defenses run at reduced efficiency, so oxidative stress rises. Walnuts attack the problem upstream. 1 small handful on this plate, about 28 grams. Ingredient 2, avocado. Avocado is rich in oleic acid, the same monounsaturated fat in extra virgin olive oil, but it adds 2 things olive oil does not have, potassium and beta-sitosterol. Potassium relaxes the smooth muscle surrounding your artery walls. After 50, when arterial stiffness is already elevated, this is a real mechanical effect every time you eat it. Beta-sitosterol is a plant compound that competes with LDL cholesterol for the same absorption receptors in your gut. When it occupies those sites, less LDL gets into your bloodstream in the first place. The exact same mechanism as prescription plant sterile supplements from a whole food. A clinical trial found that replacing saturated fat with avocado daily for 5 weeks reduced LDL by about 17%. For someone in their 50s with LDL sitting at 160, that is a meaningful shift at their next cardiology appointment. I had a 62-year-old patient whose LDL had been stuck at 194 for 3 years. We made 3 dietary changes, including half an avocado daily. 6 months later, he was at 149. His doctor wanted to know exactly what he had done. Half an avocado sliced over this plate. Ingredient 3, lentils. Lentils work through a pathway connecting your gut directly to your arteries, something most doctors trained 20 years ago were never taught. When soluble fiber from lentils dissolves in your gut, it forms a thick gel that physically traps LDL cholesterol and bile acids before they recirculate into your bloodstream. Your liver then pulls LDL out of your blood to replace the lost bile acids. This is how soluble fiber actively lowers circulating LDL through physical capture and removal, not a drug mechanism. 1 cup of cooked lentils gives you around 15 grams of fiber. A study following adults aged 55 to 70 found those eating legumes at least 4 times per week had a 22% lower cardiovascular disease risk than those eating them less than once per week. But lentils also feed gut bacteria that produce butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid with direct anti-inflammatory effects that reach your artery walls through the bloodstream. After 50, gut microbiome diversity decreases, and these beneficial bacteria become less dominant. Lentils feed them back. Half a cup to a full cup, cooked, warm over the base. Ingredient 4, beets or pomegranate seeds. Here is the age-specific mechanism most people in their 50s and 60s never hear explained. Your body makes nitric oxide through 2 pathways. The first uses an amino acid called L-arginine, but this pathway declines significantly after 50 by 30 to 50%. The second converts dietary nitrates from food into nitric oxide, and this pathway stays functional with age, which means you can partially replace the age-related nitric oxide loss simply by eating high-nitrate foods. Your body still processes them efficiently even in your 60s. Beets are among the highest nitrate foods available. A 2015 study in the journal Hypertension found daily beetroot reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 8 points in older adults, comparable to a starting dose of blood pressure medication through food alone. Pomegranate adds punicolagens, polyphenols that improve blood flow and reduce arterial stiffness. One study over 3 years found a 30% reduction in carotid artery plaque thickness in the pomegranate group, while the control group saw plaque increase by 9% over the same period. Quarter cup of pomegranate seeds or 2 small roasted beets. Ingredient 5, turmeric with black pepper curcumin. The active compound in turmeric blocks a protein called NF-κB, the master on switch for inflammatory responses inside your cells. When NF-κB is chronically activated, which is exactly what happens with a low-grade inflammation that increases naturally after 50, it drives continuous damage to your endothelial lining and continuous conditions for plaque growth. A meta-analysis of 8 randomized controlled trials found curcumin significantly reduced CRP, IL-6, and TNF-alpha-0, 3 of the primary inflammatory markers cardiologists track for cardiovascular risk. The critical detail most people miss: plain turmeric has very poor bioavailability. Most of it passes through before your body can use it. Adding black pepper changes that entirely. Piperine in black pepper blocks the enzyme that breaks down curcumin before absorption and increases bioavailability by up to 2,000%. That is documented in the pharmacological literature. Half a teaspoon of turmeric stirred into extra virgin olive oil with a pinch of black pepper as the dressing for this entire plate. That is how you get it into your system. Ingredient 6, arugula base. Arugula contains one of the highest concentrations of dietary nitrates of any salad green, higher than spinach, higher than romaine, comparable to beets gram for gram. Most people in their 50s grab a bag of mixed greens and think they have covered it. If nitric oxide support after 50 is the specific goal, and it should be, arugula is a deliberate and measurably superior choice. A generous bed of arugula underneath everything else, lentils warm on top, avocado sliced alongside, beets or pomegranate scattered over, walnuts on top, turmeric, olive oil, black pepper dressing over the whole plate. That is the complete second meal. The 3 foods working against you. Right now, you can build this plate every night and still feed arterial damage through what is happening elsewhere in your day. I have seen this pattern too many times in patients in their 50s and 60s who were doing a lot right and could not understand why their numbers would not move. First, refined vegetable oils and packaged foods. Soybean, corn, non-cold-pressed canola. Industrial refinement produces oxidized fats as a byproduct. When you eat those oxidized fats, they directly promote LDL oxidation inside your bloodstream, converting ordinary LDL into the sticky, damaged version that starts plaque formation. They are in crackers, granola bars, and dressings labeled heart healthy. The label can say that, and the oil inside can still be feeding arterial damage. Second, white bread and refined carbohydrates without fiber or fat to slow absorption. After 50, your insulin sensitivity is lower. The same amount of refined carbohydrate produces a bigger, longer blood sugar spike. Repeated spikes raise triglycerides, promote visceral fat storage, and feed arterial inflammation through a completely separate pathway from the cholesterol conversation. Most people in their 50s get their LDL monitored carefully. Almost nobody explains to them that their triglyceride number is equally important, or that refined carbohydrates are a primary driver of elevated triglycerides in this age group. If yours are above 150, that is the conversation to have at your next appointment. Third, alcohol above 1 drink per day, including red wine sold as cardiovascular protection. The polyphenol benefit from red wine is real but modest. And at more than one drink daily, it is outweighed by elevated blood pressure, disrupted sleep driving up cortisol and arterial inflammation, and increased liver burden. After 50, your liver clears alcohol roughly 30% less efficiently than it did at 35. The same drink stays in your system longer and does more damage than most people realize. What the research says and why it is not too late. The Lion Diet Heart Study followed people who had already experienced one heart attack. The group eating a Mediterranean pattern diet had a 73% lower risk of a second heart attack or cardiac death over 4 years, 73% from dietary pattern alone. A study in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that replacing just 5% of daily calories from saturated fat with unsaturated fats, the kind in avocados, walnuts, and olive oil, reduced coronary heart disease risk by 25% in adults with a mean age of 58. A 57-year-old patient came to me after a calcium score showed significant arterial calcification. Her cardiologist said medication was the next logical step. She committed to a 6-month dietary change and tracked every number with her doctor. At 6 months, no new calcification, LDL down from 171 to 138, CRP down from 3.2 to 1.1. Her cardiologist called it remarkable. She said it felt like someone had finally given her the tools she had been asking for years. If you've never heard any of this explained this way, you are not alone. Most people in their 50s and 60s have not. The research on people in your age group is clearer than most people realize. Your body is still responding, still capable of measurable change. Your summary checklist: 1. After 50, nitric oxide production drops by 30 to 50%, and oxidative stress rises. Diet is one of the most powerful levers you have on both. 2. The second artery-clearing plate: arugula base, cooked lentils, half an avocado, pomegranate seeds or roasted beets, a handful of walnuts dressed with turmeric, black pepper, and extra virgin olive oil. 3. Every ingredient has a specific artery-level job, not just a general health benefit. 4. The 3 things working against you in the background: refined seed oils, white refined carbohydrates, alcohol above 1 drink daily. 5. At your next blood panel, ask specifically about oxidized LDL, triglycerides, and CRP, not just total cholesterol. Those are the numbers that tell the real arterial story after 50. 6. These meals are the foundation, not the whole house. Sleep, stress, movement, and your full blood work all matter too. Share this with someone over 50 who needs to hear it. This channel is dedicated to practical, evidence-based senior health. If you have not subscribed yet, do that now so you never miss what we cover. Before you go, tell me in the comments, are you A, already eating some of these foods and want to know what else to add? B, just getting started and not sure where to begin? Or C, you have already made changes and noticed a difference in your blood work or how you feel? Drop your letter below. I read everyone. Your arteries are not sitting still. Every meal is either buying them more time or costing them. There is no neutral plate. Now you know what the right one looks like.